Here's a question nobody asks when they're packing their bug-out bag. What if the highway out of your city can't handle the number of people trying to use it? Not what if there's traffic. What if the mathematics of evacuation are physically impossible? What if 4 million people need to leave through 12 highway lanes and the numbers just don't work? Most people living in American cities have never done this calculation. Population divided by evacuation capacity. It's simple math. And for 5 specific cities, that math is a death sentence. This isn't about zombies or EMPs or nuclear war. This is about what happens on a Tuesday when the power grid fails for more than 72 hours, when the just-in-time delivery trucks stop arriving, when the pumping stations moving water from 300 miles away go silent, when millions of people simultaneously realize they're in the wrong place, and all of them try to fix that problem at exactly the same time. Today we're analyzing 5 American cities where geography, climate, and infrastructure create unsolvable evacuation problems. Not difficult problems, unsolvable problems. And more importantly, we're examining what you actually do when the conventional bug-out plan becomes a fantasy. Because understanding where not to be might be the most important survival knowledge you'll ever have.
Before we count down the 5 worst cities, we need to understand the framework. 3 specific failure modes determine whether a city survives infrastructure collapse or becomes a graveyard. I call it the Triad of collapse. Every city on this list fails at least 2 of these tests catastrophically. Some fail all 3. First horseman, just-in-time fragility. Your grocery store has 3 days of food. That's not an estimate. That's how modern supply chains work. Stores stock exactly what they predict they'll sell in the next 72 hours because warehousing excess inventory costs money. Just-in-time logistics is brilliant economics. It's catastrophic survival planning. The moment those delivery trucks stop rolling, because fuel pumps don't work, because highways are gridlocked, because distribution centers are abandoned, your city's food supply doesn't slowly dwindle, it evaporates. Day 1, panic buying clears anything useful. Day 2, whatever remained disappears. Day 3, people start making decisions they wouldn't have made 48 hours earlier. Most major American cities have 0 local agriculture. Your food comes from hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. When that delivery system collapses, you're not living in a city anymore. You're living in a very densely populated area where the only resource is other people's stockpiles. Second horseman, Egress Mathematics. Here's the equation that determines everything. Take your city's population, count the outbound highway lanes, divide. If 4 million people try to evacuate simultaneously on highways with 12 total outbound lanes, you have over 300,000 people per lane attempting to leave at the same time. A single highway lane moves about 2,000 vehicles per hour under perfect conditions. Perfect spacing, no accidents, everyone driving properly, unlimited fuel. You don't get perfect conditions during evacuations. You get accidents blocking lanes, people running out of gas creating more blockages, panic decisions causing more accidents. Within hours, sometimes within minutes, those highways transform from escape routes into parking lots that stretch for miles. And here's the critical part. Once you're stuck in that parking lot, your car isn't transportation anymore. It's a metal coffin with comfortable seats. You can't walk away because everything you own is inside. You can't stay because you'll run out of water. Then patience, then options. Cities built on peninsulas, islands, or mountain passes don't just have bad traffic during emergencies, they have geometric kill zones where the mathematics guarantee most people die trying to escape. Third horseman, artificial life support. Some cities exist only because technology fights the local environment 24 hours a day. Deserts require water pumped from hundreds of miles away. Extreme heat requires air conditioning running continuously. These cities aren't adapting to their environment. They're holding it at bay with infrastructure that demands uninterrupted electricity. When that electricity stops, the environment doesn't slowly reassert itself. it kills. In desert heat without air conditioning, you have 48 hours before dehydration becomes critical. In buildings designed as sealed, climate-controlled boxes, interior temperatures can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 days when the cooling fails. At that temperature, your body can't regulate its core temperature through sweating. You're cooking from the inside. If your city requires technological intervention just to maintain baseline human survivability, and all those interventions require grid power, then your city isn't a home, it's a life support system with a single point of failure. The framework. These three horsemen, supply collapse, evacuation impossibility, and environmental hostility, determine whether a city survives or dies when infrastructure fails. The 5 cities we're examining fail multiple tests simultaneously. And when you fail 2 or 3 of these tests at once, the problems don't just add up, they multiply each other. Let's start the countdown.
Miami. Palm trees, beaches, Art Deco architecture, and a geographic layout that would make a military strategist weep if they were trying to trap a population, not save one. Pull up a map of South Florida. Really look at it. To your east, the Atlantic Ocean. Unless you've got a boat and extremely optimistic navigation skills, that's a wall. To your west, the Everglades. Hundreds of square miles of swamp, alligators, and terrain that swallows vehicles like the earth is hungry. That's not an escape route. That's where people go to disappear permanently. To your south, the Florida Keys. A string of islands connected by a single highway that's already bumper to bumper on normal weekends. In an emergency, that's not an option, that's a punchline. Which leaves one direction, north, up the Interstate 95 corridor. One highway, 6 million people in the greater Miami metropolitan area. The mathematics of entrapment. Let's do the math that nobody wants to do. I-95 has 6 lanes heading north out of Miami. Add parallel routes, the Turnpike, US 1, and you get maybe 12 total northbound lanes. 6 million people divided by 12 lanes equals 500,000 people per lane trying to evacuate simultaneously. A highway lane moves roughly 2,000 vehicles per hour maximum capacity. That's 250 hours to clear the population under absolutely perfect conditions. No accidents, no breakdowns, perfect spacing, everyone maintaining highway speed, unlimited fuel. You're not getting 250 hours. You're not getting perfect conditions. When Hurricane Irma threatened in 2017, evacuation took over 12 hours, and that was with 3 days of advance warning. Functioning infrastructure, coordinated traffic management, working gas stations, and tow trucks clearing accidents. In a sudden grid-down scenario, you lose all that. No traffic lights, no fuel pumps, no tow trucks, no coordination. The gridlock doesn't clear, it becomes permanent until people abandon their vehicles and start walking. And walking north from Miami through Florida heat with no water source is its own death sentence. The cascade. But it gets worse. While you're sitting in that traffic watching your gas gauge drop, several other problems accelerate. Miami's water supply depends on pumping stations. When the grid fails, those pumps stop. When the pumps stop, water pressure drops to 0 within days. No water for drinking, no water for cooling, no water to flush toilets in a city of 6 million people. The temperature averages 85 degrees with 90% humidity. Every refrigerated item in every home and restaurant starts spoiling immediately. Within 24 hours, the smell alone becomes unbearable. Within 48 hours, you're looking at disease vectors that modern sanitation normally suppresses. And you can't leave because you're trapped on a peninsula with millions of other people who had the same idea at the same time. The reality. Miami isn't a death trap because of crime or chaos. Miami is a death trap because of coastline. You're on a peninsula with one viable exit and 6 million people who need to use that exit simultaneously. The mathematics guarantee that most people never make it out,
They die sitting in traffic, or they die trying to survive in place without water, without food, without functioning sanitation in tropical heat. Geography doesn't negotiate, and Miami's geography has already decided how this ends.
Phoenix is proof that humans will build anywhere if you add enough air conditioning and pretend the local environment doesn't want you dead. This is a city built in a desert, not near a desert, not on the edge of a desert, in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, where summer temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit and occasionally kiss 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Under normal circumstances, this is fine. Uncomfortable maybe, but survivable. Because every building in Phoenix is essentially a refrigeration unit with furniture. The entire city runs on air conditioning the way other cities run on water. Now imagine the AC stops. The physics of heat death. Within hours of air conditioning failure, interior building temperatures start climbing toward ambient, and ambient in Phoenix during summer is hot enough to cook food on sidewalk concrete for about 4 months of the year. Here's a number that should terrify you: 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the interior temperature of a modern glass and steel building in Phoenix within 48 hours of the grid going down during summer. Modern construction actually accelerates this because glass and steel are excellent at absorbing and radiating heat. At 120 degrees Fahrenheit, your body cannot cool itself through sweating. The ambient temperature exceeds your core body temperature. You sweat, but the moisture evaporates without cooling you. Your core temperature rises, your organs start failing. This isn't discomfort, this is biological shutdown. The elderly and children die first, people with existing health conditions follow, then everyone else. Not over weeks, over hours. The cruel trap. And here's the sadistic irony. You can't escape outdoors, because outside is where the heat started. You're trapped between buildings that have become ovens and an environment that's always been one. There is no cool place to go. There is no shade that helps when ambient temperature is 115 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no strategy that makes Phoenix summer survivable without artificial cooling. The water cascade. Phoenix's water supply comes from a series of canals and reservoirs that require, you guessed it, electrical pumps to function. The Central Arizona Project, the Salt River Project. These aren't small systems. These are massive engineering projects moving water from hundreds of miles away. When those pumps stop, the taps go dry within days. And unlike cities near rivers or lakes, Phoenix is surrounded by desert. The nearest natural water source that doesn't require pumping infrastructure is over 100 miles away. There is no backup. There is no go-to-the-river option. You're in the middle of a desert that receives less than 8 inches of rain per year. When the pumps stop, there is no water, period. The mathematics of thermodynamics. Let's talk about what happens to a human body in 120 degrees Fahrenheit heat without water. You lose approximately 1 liter of water per hour through sweat and respiration. Most of that sweating does nothing to cool you because the ambient temperature is too high for evaporative cooling to work effectively. At that rate of water loss, you need 24 liters, over 6 gallons of water per day just to maintain hydration. Not to thrive, not to work, just to not die of dehydration. How much water do you have stored? Because Phoenix isn't a 3-day emergency. Phoenix is a how many days can you survive 115 degrees Fahrenheit heat with limited water calculation. And for most people, that number is less than 1 week. The reality. Phoenix exists because of engineering hubris. It survives because of constant massive energy expenditure, creating an artificial environment that allows humans to exist in a place that naturally kills them. The moment that energy stops flowing, the desert reminds everyone why it was empty for 10,000 years before air conditioning made people forget. You can't tough out Phoenix summer without grid power. You can't store enough water. You can't shelter in place. The environment itself is the weapon, and it's patient, and it's been waiting for this moment. Thermodynamics doesn't forgive, and Phoenix's thermodynamics are a death sentence the moment the cooling stops.
Las Vegas exists because someone looked at a dry lake bed in the middle of the Mojave Desert and thought, you know what this needs? Casinos. And somehow, through sheer audacity and massive infrastructure investment, it worked. Over 2 million people now live in the Las Vegas metropolitan area. 2 million people in one of the harshest environments in North America. And every single one of them is alive because of a single engineering project that most of them have never thought about. The Hoover Dam. The single point of failure. Most people know the Hoover Dam as a tourist attraction, a marvel of 1930s engineering, something you visit on the way to the Grand Canyon. What most people don't realize is that it's also the only thing standing between Las Vegas and complete irreversible collapse. The dam generates about 4 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity per year. That electricity powers the pumping stations that move water from Lake Mead into the Las Vegas water system. That electricity powers the air conditioning that makes the desert survivable in summer. That electricity powers, quite literally, everything that keeps Las Vegas alive. When the grid goes down, Las Vegas doesn't slowly decline. It doesn't have a gradual reduction in services. It stops. The cascade. Water pressure drops to zero within days as pumping stations fail. Air conditioning becomes a memory. The temperature inside the casinos, those massive windowless structures designed to keep you gambling, not to keep you alive, becomes unsurvivable during summer months. And unlike Phoenix, which at least has highway connections to other major cities, Las Vegas is isolated. The surrounding desert isn't just hostile, it's empty. The geography of isolation. Look at a map of Nevada. Really look at where Las Vegas sits. To the southwest, 270 miles of Mojave Desert to reach Los Angeles. To the southeast, 300 miles of desert to reach Phoenix. To the north, 450 miles to Reno through more desert. Between Las Vegas and any city with independent resources, there is nothing. Not suburbs that eventually peter out into rural areas. Nothing. Just desert. Miles and miles of terrain that kills people who break down without water. The evacuation mathematics. Las Vegas has 2 million people and 3 primary highways. Interstate 15 to Los Angeles, US 95 to Reno, and US 33 to Phoenix. When 2 million people try to evacuate on 3 highways simultaneously during a crisis, the mathematics are straightforward and brutal. You have perhaps 45 minutes, not hours, minutes from the moment of crisis before those highways become impassable parking lots. Because Las Vegas isn't just residents, it's casino workers, hotel staff, and tourists, millions of people who don't live there and will immediately attempt to leave, all of them heading for the same 3 highways at the same time. The desert math. Let's talk about what happens if you get stuck. Mojave Desert summer temperatures exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit regularly. In a vehicle without air conditioning, interior temperature can reach 130 degrees within 30 minutes. At those temperatures, you have hours, not days, hours before heat stroke becomes fatal. And you can't walk out. The nearest city is 270 miles away. In desert heat, a human can walk maybe 2 miles per hour while carrying minimal supplies. That's 135 hours of walking. You don't have 135 hours of water. You don't have 135 hours of physical capability in 110 degree Fahrenheit heat. If you're stuck on that highway, you die in your car or you die trying to walk out. Those are your options. The reality. Las Vegas isn't a city, it's a magic trick. Electricity is the sleight of hand that makes you think humans can survive in the middle of the Mojave Desert. The Hoover Dam is the magician keeping the illusion going. When the power goes out, the end ends, and everyone realizes they've been standing in the middle of nowhere the entire time, 270 miles from the nearest actual city, surrounded by an environment that kills faster than starvation. Las Vegas imports everything: food, water, power, even the dirt for its golf courses. It's a completely artificial ecosystem that requires constant external input to maintain. When that input stops, the equation is simple. 2 million people,
Zero local resources. Dehydration kills in 3 days. In the desert, it kills faster. The mirage fades, and what's left is just desert and bodies.
Manhattan, the financial capital of the world, the cultural center of America. A tiny island packed with more people per square mile than almost anywhere else on Earth. 1.6 million people live on Manhattan Island. During a workday, that number swells to over 4 million. All of them on an island roughly 2 miles wide and 13 miles long, connected to the outside world by bridges and tunnels. The geographic trap. Think about that for a moment. Every single person on that island got there by crossing water, by bridge, by tunnel, by ferry. There is no other way on or off. In a grid-down scenario, those bridges and tunnels become the only things that matter. And historically, in every moment of crisis, the first thing authorities do is control those choke points. It happened during the 1977 blackout. It happened after 9/11. It will happen again. The bridge closures. When chaos erupts on Manhattan, and in a prolonged grid failure, chaos is guaranteed, the bridges get closed. Not out of malice, out of mathematics. You cannot have 4 million people trying to cross 6 bridges simultaneously. The structures won't hold. The flow won't work. People will die on the bridges themselves, crushed, trampled, falling. So authorities close them, contain the situation, wait for order to be restored. But in a true grid-down scenario, order isn't coming back. Not soon, not in time. And suddenly, everyone on Manhattan Island realizes they're trapped. The vertical collapse. The subway becomes useless, a network of dark tunnels flooding with groundwater now that the pumps have failed. Anyone caught underground when the lights went out is in a nightmare without rescue. The streets gridlock instantly. Manhattan has nowhere for traffic to go under normal conditions. In an emergency, it becomes a metal canyon of stalled vehicles. The buildings become vertical extensions of the problem. No water above the 6th floor once the pumps fail. No elevators. Millions of people in skyscrapers where each floor becomes less survivable than the one below it. Modern high-rises are sealed environments. They don't have windows that open. They don't have fireplaces. They rely entirely on HVAC systems powered by the grid. When that grid fails in winter, the temperature inside starts dropping. Within hours, it's uncomfortable. Within a day, it's dangerous. Within 2 days, your apartment is the same temperature as outside, and outside is below freezing. You're sitting in a very expensive refrigerator 40 floors above ground with no way down except stairs, crowded with everyone else having the same realization. The food desert. And then there's the food supply. Manhattan is a food desert in the truest sense. There's no agriculture, no reserves, just restaurants and bodegas that stock maybe 3 days of inventory. Those stores empty within hours. Then what? 1.6 million people. No food, trapped on an island, the bridges closed, no help coming. The density mathematics. Being trapped on Manhattan during grid collapse isn't about surviving until help arrives. It's about accepting that help isn't coming, and everyone around you is making the same realization simultaneously. Density is efficiency in good times. You can walk to everything, services are close, resources are abundant. In bad times, density is a multiplication factor for disaster. Every problem, food shortage, water failure, sanitation collapse, affects more people per square mile than anywhere else in America. The problems don't scale linearly, they scale exponentially. The reality. Manhattan isn't dangerous because of anything it does. It's dangerous because it's an island, and islands become cages when the bridges close. You can't walk out, you can't drive out, you can't wait it out because the resource density that made Manhattan successful becomes the resource depletion that makes it fatal. The island that never sleeps becomes the island that never wakes up.
And here it is, the top of the list. The place that fails every test in the triad of collapse so thoroughly, so completely, that it's almost impressive. Los Angeles, city of angels, entertainment capital of the world, and the single most dangerous place to be in America when the grid fails. The water death. Let's start with water, because water is where everything falls apart. Los Angeles has almost 4 million people in the city proper, over 10 million in the county, 18 million in the greater metropolitan area. And it gets 85% of its water from somewhere else. Not some supplemental water, not backup supply. The vast majority of every drop that comes out of a Los Angeles faucet was pumped, transported, and delivered from hundreds of miles away. The California Aqueduct from Northern California, the Colorado River Aqueduct from Arizona, the Los Angeles Aqueduct from Owens Valley. These are massive engineering projects that require massive pumping stations that require massive amounts of electricity. When the grid fails, those pumps stop. When those pumps stop, Los Angeles starts dying of thirst. Within days, not weeks, days, the taps go dry. 18 million people, no water. The fire cascade. But here's where it gets so much worse. Los Angeles is built on a tinderbox. The surrounding chaparral, the Santa Ana winds, the chronic drought conditions. This is an ecosystem that wants to burn. Every year, fires sweep through the region. Every year, they get worse. And every year, the only thing standing between those fires and the urban core is firefighting infrastructure. Infrastructure that runs on water. Water that requires pumps. Pumps that need electricity. In a grid-down scenario, fire hydrants have no pressure, fire stations have no water, and the fires, which will absolutely start, whether from accidents, unattended stoves, chaos, or something more deliberate, have nothing to stop them. Now add the Santa Ana winds. These aren't gentle breezes. These are 40 to 60 mile-per-hour winds that blow from the desert toward the coast. They take small fires and turn them into firestorms. They push flames westward, toward the population centers, toward the ocean, consuming everything in between. The evacuation impossibility. And here's where all three horsemen converge into a single apocalyptic scenario. Los Angeles has the worst traffic in America, the worst. On a normal day, with all infrastructure functioning, LA traffic is a nightmare. Now imagine 10 million people trying to evacuate simultaneously. No traffic lights, fires spreading, roads blocked by accidents, fuel pumps offline. The highways don't become escape routes, they become death traps. Interstate 5 northbound, Interstate 10 eastbound, Interstate 15 northeast, US 101 northbound, Interstate 405 northbound. Even under perfect conditions, which don't exist, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of people per highway trying to leave at once. Add fires, add smoke reducing visibility, add accidents causing more accidents, add panic. Within minutes, not hours, minutes, those highways transform into parking lots that stretch for dozens of miles. The perfect storm. Here's why Los Angeles is number one. The three failures don't just happen simultaneously, they amplify each other. No water means no firefighting. No firefighting means fires spread unchecked. Fires spreading means smoke reduces visibility. Smoke means more highway accidents. Accidents mean worse gridlock. Gridlock means people trapped in vehicles. Trapped vehicles mean no escape when fires reach the highways. The Santa Ana winds push those fires directly toward the highways, toward the gridlocked population, toward millions of people who thought they were evacuating to safety. This isn't three separate problems. This is one cascading disaster where each failure makes the others exponentially worse. The mathematics of doom. Let's be absolutely clear about the timeline. When the grid fails in Los Angeles during Santa Ana conditions, you have approximately 30 minutes, not hours, not even 60 minutes like other cities, 30 minutes maximum to get ahead of the evacuation wave before the highways gridlock completely, the fires start spreading, the smoke reduces visibility to near zero, escape becomes mathematically impossible. 30 minutes, that's your window. That's all you get.
And most people will spend those 30 minutes trying to understand what's happening, checking phones that don't work, calling family members they can't reach, packing supplies they don't need. By the time they realize they need to leave, it's already too late. The reality. Los Angeles doesn't just fail the triad of collapse, it demonstrates why the triad exists in the first place. No water, thirst kills in days. No egress, highways become death traps. Environmental hostility, fires come and there's nothing to stop them. This is a city of 18 million people built on arrogance, maintained by infrastructure that exists on a knife's edge, and absolutely, catastrophically unprepared for the day that edge cuts. When the lights go out in Los Angeles, the city burns, and there will be nowhere to run, nothing to run to, and no one coming to put out the flames. The mathematics are clear, the geography is final, and the outcome is written in smoke and ash.
5 cities, 5 different ways that modern engineering and geographic reality conspire to create perfect killing zones the moment our carefully balanced systems fail. Miami's Peninsula Funnel, Phoenix's thermodynamic trap, Vegas's desert mirage, New York's island cage, Los Angeles's firestorm convergence. None of these cities are inherently evil. None of them were designed to kill their inhabitants. They're just places where the margin between civilization and catastrophe is razor thin, and the safety nets we've built are made of electricity and diesel fuel. The uncomfortable truth. If you live in one of these places, your survival strategy cannot be shelter in place and wait for help. It cannot be use my stored supplies until things stabilize. It cannot be I'll figure it out when it happens. Because when it happens, there won't be time to figure anything out. The window will be measured in minutes, not hours. The highways will gridlock before you realize you need to leave. The bridges will close while you're still packing. The fires will spread faster than you can drive. Your strategy has to be preemptive evacuation. You have to leave before the news tells you to, before authorities make announcements, before everyone else realizes what's happening. Because by the time it's obvious to everyone, it's already too late. The golden hour has expired. The highways are parking lots. The bridges are controlled. The window has shut. What this means? This means having a real plan, not a vague idea, not I'll head north if something happens. A physical destination more than a tank of gas away. A route that avoids the obvious choke points. A trigger point. A specific, measurable condition that, when met, causes you to execute the plan immediately without waiting for confirmation or consensus. It means accepting that you might evacuate based on what turns out to be a false alarm, that you might feel foolish driving 400 miles because the power went out and it turned out to be routine maintenance. Better to feel foolish than to feel nothing at all. The real survival tool. The cities aren't death traps because people are stupid or unprepared. They're death traps because people are optimistic. They believe things will work out. They believe the systems will hold. They believe someone will come to help. Sometimes they're right. But when they're wrong, when the grid truly fails and the trucks stop rolling and the pumps go silent, being wrong costs everything. You can't change where you live overnight. You can't move out of Los Angeles tomorrow. But you can know the risks. You can make plans. You can understand that your city's beauty and convenience and opportunity come at a price. And that price becomes due the moment the lights go out. The framework. Geography doesn't negotiate. Thermodynamics doesn't forgive. Logistics doesn't make exceptions. But you can make choices while there's still time to make choices. The question isn't whether you're prepared for disaster. The question is whether you're prepared to recognize when staying becomes more dangerous than leaving. Whether you're prepared to act on incomplete information. Whether you're prepared to be wrong. Because the alternative is being right and being dead. The collapse isn't coming someday in the distant future. The collapse is always one bad day away. It has been for decades. The systems are that fragile. The margins are that thin. The only variable is whether you understand the mathematics of your location before you need to.
Do you live in one of these 5 cities?
Have you actually done the math on how long it would take to evacuate your city's population? Not a guess, the actual calculation. Subscribe if you want survival analysis based on physics and mathematics, not gear reviews and bug-out bag contents. Every video on this channel examines what actually works when conventional wisdom collapses. This is Fallout Wrap. Stay filthy, stay smart, stay rational when everyone else is optimistic.